Ron Dalton Jr. was on Sarnetta, where he discussed a significant topic. The poster read, 90% of Israelite leaders don't know who the Canaanites are. Why do they avoid teaching or debating this subject? In his presentation, which lasted 4 hours, 44 minutes, and 53 seconds, he made several intriguing claims. In this review, I will focus exclusively on the first 26 minutes and 42 seconds of his video. I won't cover everything. You can find the full video on Sarnetta's channel. What I'm going to do is I will outline the foundation of his premise and then provide a critical review. If this premise is incorrect, then his entire theory will likely be flawed. Let's listen in very carefully to what he presents.
So, looking at this DNA genetic map of the haplogroups on the maternal side, we have to understand that the Israelites, like I said earlier in the last show that some Israelites didn't get, is that Jacob only had one daughter. And so to be an Israelite, you have to be from the womb of his wives, and you had to be from his loins, his sperm. So Dinah was the only Israelite woman from the start. And the 12 sons and their sister, they had to keep the lineage going by having sex with the opposite race and having children. But you are who your father is, and the Israelite boys were tasked with continuing the bloodline based on the pedigree of the Israelites is based on your father's lineage. And so when the Israelites with Jacob's 12 sons, when they went into Egypt with Joseph, they obviously were in the land of Egypt, and they had to repopulate their lineage with women. Common sense tells us these Israelite women, Israelite men are not going to have children with their sister. They're not going to have children with their mothers or stepmothers or play mothers like Rachel and Leah, Zilpah, and Bilhah. All of the Israelites did not come from one mother. All the 12 tribes did not come from one mother. They came from various mothers. Therefore, we know that these Israelite men are not going to sleep with their mother or play mothers. That's incense. And I'm sure the husband, Jacob, would not approve of that. Anyway, so the Israelites had to procreate with the other women of Ham in Egypt and in Sudan, the land of Cush, even the land of Put. But the land of Canaan is what we're going to focus on today. Why do we see so many maternal DNA haplogroups in sub-Saharan Africa? Because a lot of the Bantu people and West Africans come from the wombs of non-Israelite mothers from the beginning. Egyptians, Canaanites, Cushites. This is a fact. This is a logic and critical thinking. When you look at the maternal...
Now I'm going to list his main points. Dinah's role and the lack of Israelite women. Ron Dalton emphasizes that Dinah was the only Israelite woman at the time, which created a practical issue for Jacob's sons. Since there were no other Israelite women available, according to Ron, the sons would have had to marry outside their immediate family. This argument implies that intermarriage with Canaanites, Egyptians, or other local groups was a necessity for the survival and growth of the Israelite lineage. My position on this is completely inaccurate. I will demonstrate that. Number 2, claim about marrying Canaanites and Egyptians. Ron explicitly states that Jacob's sons had to keep the lineage going by having sex with the opposite race and having children. He argues that the Israelite bloodline is determined by the father's lineage, meaning that even if the sons married non-Israelite women, example Canaanites or Egyptians, the children will still be considered Israelites because of their paternal descent. Again, how accurate is this? I disagree, and I will demonstrate that. Shocking, huh? Let's move on. Patrilineal descent as the key factor. Ron Dalton Jr. repeatedly stresses that Israelite identity is determined by the father's line, not the mother's. This means that even if Jacob's sons married non-Israelite women, their children will still be considered Israelites because they were descended from Jacob. This argument is used to justify the idea that intermarriage with Canaanites or Egyptians will not compromise the Israelite lineage. My question to my brother Ron is, are you sure? I will state a different position. Rejection of incest. Ron makes it clear that incest was not an option for Jacob's sons. He explicitly states that the sons will not have married their mothers, stepmothers, or play mothers. I don't know what that meant. Example, Rachel, Leah, Bilhah, or Zilpah. Ron refers to such relationships as incest and firmly rejects the idea that this would have been accepted or practiced. Now, since incest was not an option, Ron Dalton Jr. argues that Jacob's sons had to marry outside their immediate family. This reinforces his claim that the sons likely married Canaanites, Egyptians, or other non-Israelite women to continue the lineage. Ron uses this point to support the argument that the Israelite bloodline was preserved through the father's lineage, even if the mothers were not Israelites. Ron, are you sure? Incests. I would argue differently. Genetic evidence and intermarriage. The speaker ties this claim to genetic evidence, discussing haplogroups and the migration of people from Egypt, Canaan, and Africa. He suggests that the genetic markers found in these regions today reflect the historical intermarriage between Jacob's children, Israelites, and other groups. He uses this genetic data to argue that the Israelites' lineage includes contributions from Canaanites, Egyptians, and other neighboring populations. So to summarize everything, Ron does claim that Jacob's sons likely married Canaanite, Egyptians, or other non-Israelite women due to the lack of Israelite women at the time. However, he argues that this did not compromise the Israelites' lineage because identity was determined by the father's line. My position. Every single point my brother Ron Dalton makes is inaccurate, undermining his entire theory. I am going to present my position in the next video.